Hello, Brave Nation, and welcome to episode 26 of BraveHawk Talk, presented by Pepsi. Pepsi, that's what I like. I'm John Gross, and I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. And speaking of Thanksgiving, I'm getting a little bit hungry, so after this, I'm gonna go head over to McDonald's, get my go-to meal of a fish fillet sandwich and a strawberry banana smoothie, and call it a night. So next time you're hungry, you should go do the same. McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. I'm loving it. Today we're joined by Alex Watkins of the UNCP softball team and UNCP's head athletic trainer and COVID leader, Joey Tamburo. First up, Alex Watkins is ready to make the most of her final year of eligibility. Her new perspective on the game she loves has her and her team in prime position for this upcoming season. Here's this week's Scotland Health Student Athlete of the Week, senior softball player Alex Watkins. I know this off-season has been strange. It's been on and off, and I know that you're headed to work out later today, but how have you been able to kind of stay focused and stay in game shape through this craziness?
Well, it's just a day at a time, with all this craziness, you just got to take it one day at a time. I actually feel more, I would say, in shape this year. I know it's kind of crazy to believe, but when your focus is on one thing, you just kind of stick to it, and trying to just get ready for the season, and it's just hoping like we'll have one, and we're speaking it into existence. Basically, we're going to have this season, and that's all I'm looking forward to. So it's kind of keeping me focused throughout the fall and stay in shape and stick with my teammates.
Now, you and your team had been practicing for a little while, at least in the fall, before everything kind of got shut down again here in the athletic department. What was practice like in those few weeks that you were able to practice? What'd you see from your team?
First, it was different because we didn't start at a regular time. So that was kind of it was not really a downfall for us, but it was more of trying to, get our kinks out and everything like that. But I feel like we're still going to do really well with, coming back with a couple weeks until season. And practice was, it was not all that different, only except, not coming in huddles all the time. So that was it was hard for me because I'm more of I'm probably one of the best hype men on the team, I would say, because I like to go up to people and I like to go up to people and be their hype man. But it was kind of different, this year with, not being around so many people, but basically being the hype man from a distance. But, it was not much different, but we still were grinding out, on the field and in the weight room together, in groups and things like that. But we were still getting things done. I think, like you were saying earlier, how was our, focus and everything, since, we weren't able to, be so close together, we were still focused. We still remained focused with, okay, this is our goal today. We can't, be too close, but we're still going to do our thing. And, we just kept to it. And I think it was really good for us that we just had a goal and we achieved the goal, and we just got to keep it up in the springtime as well.
Last season was your senior season, but you were given the opportunity to come back because the season was shortened. Why did you decide to return to UNCP for another season?
Oh, man, I am just thankful for this opportunity. I actually talked to my coach today, and we were talking about it a little bit back in May, just how much I've grown and how much we've grown. Back in May and March, around March is when we lost our season. We were just lost. It was just a really hard time for us. We lost our season. And I had no idea what the next step was. However, when I got the opportunity to come back to this program, it kind of changed my mindset of actually, coming to play and being thankful for having another year and playing another year, of the game I love. It just kind of gave me a new outlook of the season and of this year. I feel more confident. I feel more, kind of relaxed in a way. I'm just taking one day at a time and, just enjoying the moment, enjoying every moment that I have with this program, with this team, with this game, everything.
So
it kind of worked out in my favor, actually, as well. Last year, I did graduate with my exercise sports science degree. However, I'm still trying to get into PTA school, which is physical therapy assistant. This is another opportunity that I was able to, play another year. I did not get in last fall, so it worked out in my favor. So I'm still, to this day, I'm actually going to be applying to PTA school and hoping I will, pursue in this career. But like I said, I'm so thankful for this opportunity that I'm able to play another year, be a part of this program, and be here another year at this school. And it gives me all hope, and I'm very excited that I'll be able to play another season.
That's very impressive because it seems like you were able to take a very negative situation and flip it on its head and kind of turn it into a positive almost. Would you say that's the case?
I would definitely say so. Like I said before, I was in a really bad place when all this happened, and I had nowhere else to, what my next step was. Over the summer, it was just a really hard thing for me. And I know most of my teammates and my team and my coaches, I know it was really hard because we lost our season and we didn't know what the next step was. And I was really heartbroken for the ones that could not come back because, they had different opportunities and things that they had to do, for graduate school or next level of things that they wanted to do, and they couldn't come back. So it just kind of gave me, like I said, another outlook of, the game, my opportunity of coming back, and it became positive for me.
When you look at your career, it's very impressive, just numbers-wise and anecdotally, but you come in from day one and you're a starter 45 games in your freshman year, and that trend really continued throughout your career. But where do you feel like you've grown the most since day one on campus?
See, that is definitely a hard question because I've seen the growth throughout the years. Many people know that I have been injured throughout most of my seasons here at Pembroke. I've been hurt 3 years out of my 4. So, it's just, I think my mentality this year of my injuries and everything like that has just changed. Yeah, I'm old now, of course. I'm definitely old now. I'm going to feel the pain. I'm going to feel, the bumps and bruises. But now that I got through that, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to hurt, but I'm still playing. Like, this is what I want to do. The growth, I would say, I think I saw a lot of growth probably actually last year when, my season got cut. A lot of the times, like, over the years, how some athletes, oh my goodness, like, I got to go do this today, I got to do that today. No, like, this fall, I had a different outlook. Like, I was like, okay, I get to go do this today. I get to go work out today. I get to go, I get to get on the field today and play because, you never know when it's your last. So just have a different outlook on it and stay positive with things because that's all you can do with this situation in life. And it kind of it's shown a lot of growth in me, especially this fall and this past season. And I have grown, I think, a lot from this point now. So I would say that much.
Well, that's a phenomenal mindset to have. And I want to step back a bit and just look at the UNCP softball program as a whole. Because, again, this will be your 5th year in the program. And you look back to when the season had ended last year, the team was 13-9, was on a roll, had won 9 of its last 10 games. Really a talented team under Coach Bennett. What changes have you seen in this program from day one? Where do you think that UNCP softball has changed or improved the most since you stepped on campus?
That's a good question. Let's see. I think we get, especially this year, I would say we have a lot of talent this year. A lot of freshmen that came in, a lot of talent. I know in years before that more talent's going to be coming in. I've seen these players. Something that I've seen, I believe that there's a lot of fight in us. We might not be the best team, but we're going to fight for each other. And over the years, I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of fight, especially throughout our conference play, especially my junior year. That one game I will never forget against North Georgia. We were the 8th seed, they were the 1st seed, and we could have won, but we were winning at one point, and they just came back, just out of spite. They just had the chance, but over the years we have so much fight, and I know this year we're going to have the same thing. So I'm really excited about that, and I know that we have a great program. We've always had a great program. The people in it is great. We love each other, and it's just awesome to have this, this community around us, and it's just awesome. We have so much fight in each other, and I think that's the best part about us.
Well, you and your teammates will have an opportunity to showcase where this program's at in early February, and the schedule has been released. You can find the schedule on uncpbraves.com. When you step on that field in early February to finally get another game in, what do you think that'll feel like?
Shoot, it'll feel like heaven. Getting back on that field and playing for this community, this program, just being on that field will be so much to me, and I'll be so thankful to be on that field.
I want to switch gears a bit, talk about your dog, because I've heard that you recently got a dog, right? Is that correct?
I do. She is a handful. I love her to death, though. She's wonderful.
And I believe she was in the office a couple weeks ago. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What's the background there?
So I recently got her from one of the athletes here at Pembroke, and I've been wanting a dog for so long, and it kind of just got put into my hands. You see, one day I was going in the training room. I go to the training room about every day. If you know me, I'll be in the training room. I saw these 2 or 3 puppies in the training room. I was like, oh my goodness. And they were like, well, we're giving them away, and if you really want one, just let us know. And I'm like, oh man. And so I was debating if I really want this dog or not. And 2 of my teammates got the dog, and were like, well, I know you've been wanting a dog, and if you really want her, you can have her. And I was like, man. And of course, I called my mom and everything. I said, Mama, can I have this dog? And she was like, well, Alex, you're going to have to take care of it, all this and that. And, I was like, well, this is also going to, help me get up in the mornings and all this and that. But now that I realize, wow, it's definitely a job. She has woke me up many times, but she is 3 months old. She just turned 3 months old November 20th. So, but yeah, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to make the decision and get her, and, and ever since then, I've never really looked back, and it's been a joy to have her, and I'm so glad that I got her, and spent some time with her and everything, so it's great to have. I love her to death.
I'm going to create an award on the spot right here. The Dog Whisperer Award goes to the UNCP softball program, because I think back to last season, we had the Bark in the Park photo shoot, and then the next day, Randy Wetherington adopted a dog, and and you get a dog here. It seems like the whole team is all on board with getting dogs. I love it.
Oh my gosh, yes. Even that day, I wanted to get a dog myself, but it just wasn't right. It just wasn't right then, because you were in during season, and I just really want to give all the love and attention to this dog. But I was so happy that my teammates got a dog, because I was always over to their apartment to play with the dogs and everything. So it's great.
Well, Alex,
We're definitely a dog team for sure.
Absolutely, gotta love it. I'm a big dog fan myself. We rescued a dog a few years ago, and it was the best decision. He's up in New Jersey, so I miss him every day. But it's great. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on a very successful career here at UNCP, and we look forward to seeing another great year from you and your teammates coming up in a couple months. Thanks again to Alex, and we look forward to her season starting in February. Ever wonder why BraveHawk's outfits always look so good? Well, now you know. It's all thanks to our good friends at City Cleaners. City Cleaners of Pembroke and Lumberton, keeping BraveHawk's clothes and your clothes fresh and clean. In 2020, success in the playing surface goes far beyond practice and play calls. COVID testing and protocols must be followed to even get to compete. What does that all look like at UNCP? Here's the man in charge of Braves Athletics COVID testing, head athletic trainer Joey Tamburo. Joey, I know you're one of the busiest guys in this building right now, so thank you for taking time out of your day to speak with us today.
Anytime, John. Anytime. I've always got time for you, man, for sure.
Appreciate it. Hey, there are a lot of terms that go along with COVID testing, and before we dive a little bit deeper, I want to define some of those terms. Could you go over the different tiers and the different contact levels of sports and in season versus out of season?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So I'll start at the first part. So the NCAA is kind of designated for testing purposes, anyways. 3 different tiers for basically each team. So everybody references the NBA bubble. So obviously, like that's kind of the term that you always hear is the bubble. So what you would deem as your inner bubble for a sport would be your tier 1. So basically, that's your student athletes, your coaches, your athletic trainers. If you have an equipment manager or managers who are going to be at practice, basically anybody who for whatever reason cannot reasonably distance themselves from each other, may have to have a mask off at one point in time, people that are going to be around the team quite a bit. And then you have your tier 2, which would be more so people like yourself, actually, some of the administrators that we have, people who are going to be part of the game day ops team, people who are going to be around the teams, but don't necessarily need to be there in a fashion where they wouldn't be able to be distanced, wouldn't be able to be masked, aren't really posing any serious contact tracing threat. And then your tier 3 people who are really like, people who are maybe only around for a game, or they kind of categorize people like that as like game day security, or the facilities people, the janitorial staff, concession staff, things like that, who are obviously part of the game day experience and part of the team, but don't necessarily need to be around any of the players where they're posing any kind of threat. And so basically the way that works out is tier 1 has to fall into some kind of testing category, depending on the level of risk for your sport. Tier 2 doesn't necessarily need to be tested unless they end up traveling with the team. And tier 3, for our purposes, would never need to be tested at all. And so for UNCP, we've got our high-risk sports, which basically are sports that people are going to be coming in contact with each other quite a bit, cannot reasonably mask, and obviously to be able to play the sport can't reasonably distance. So for UNCP, that would be football, men's and women's basketball, and wrestling for us. And that's kind of the highest level of testing that you have to do. So to give you a glimpse into what men's and women's basketball and wrestling are going through right now, they actually have to test they're getting tested with a PCR test at least once a week. And for our men's and women's team who are gearing up to play games this week, they're actually getting antigen tests 3 times a week. So they're having to come in 3 times a week to get a nasal swab and get tested. For our medium risk sports, that'd be sports for us like volleyball, soccer, indoor track and field, spirit squad. Those also have to fall into some kind of testing category, but depending on what season they're in, there's different levels to it. For the most part, what we do is what we call surveillance testing for those sports, where we're going to test 50% of the roster every week, basically. So within 2 weeks, basically, the entire team will be tested. And then we have our lower tier sports, which, or our low risk sports, I should say, which for us, we're going to test everybody whenever we come back from Christmas break. But after that, our low-risk sports, unless they turned up asymptomatic, wouldn't have to be tested necessarily, unless somebody presented asymptomatic or was a high-risk close contact with somebody, in which case we get them tested just to verify what was going on before they went to quarantine. So a lot of information there to digest, but welcome to my world.
Right. No, it's very important information. There have been a lot of rule changes, a lot of policy changes that you and many other administrators have had to be on top of. How were you and the university able to procure these tests? Because I know it's been a challenge for many universities and athletic departments to have access to quick and accurate testing.
Yeah, no, it's honestly we actually got really lucky with working through the summertime when we realized how crucial all this stuff was going to be. We partner with a company called Viviture, which is our electronic medical record system partner, who happened to partner with a company called Quadell. And so Quadell, that's what they do is they make these analyzers that typically what they test for is they're like what you see for a rapid flu test, rapid strep test. So the analyzers themselves have been around for a long time. The tests have been around for a long time. We're working with our COVID action team in July before we even came back to school. We realized that, hey, we should probably get a line on this stuff because this is probably where it's going to be headed. So luckily we kind of had that. We had that sight. We had that vision over the summertime, and we started getting in contact with them. We were able to secure an analyzer. We were able to secure quite a bit of antigen tests. I would argue that we're probably one of the best stocked schools in the region at this level for sure as far as antigen tests go. So luckily before the shortage happened, we were already on top of it and already been able to procure some of that stuff. And then as some of these shortages and some of these issues with other companies have happened, because we got on so early, we've been partnering with Quadell directly now, who's been loyal to us because we've been, we've given them so much business, so we've been able to navigate through that. And really from there, the only thing that's changed is just as the NCAA changes every 2 or 3 weeks, we have to change the number of tests that we have to purchase, or the scheduling of tests that we have to purchase, or something like that. But we're very fortunate because there's a lot, especially at our level, Division II level, there's a lot of schools who are able to partner with maybe a lab where they're able to get the PCR test, which is the lab test, but they don't have access to any kind of rapid testing like we do, which it kind of, at this point, has honestly put us at a little bit of an advantage because we're able to test, people the day of a game, officials coming in the day of a game, people that we might have issues with, and kind of we get that result within 15 minutes rather than, okay, well, if we test somebody today, we're going to have to wait probably at least 48 hours, to get that result. So we've been very lucky to stay ahead of the curve for sure.
And as we said, not every school is in the position that we're in here at UNCP with the access to tests and these accurate tests. What's the communication like between schools? And I don't know if it's between you or another school's athletic trainer, but what's that communication like to make sure that both schools, going into a given game are following these protocols and are going to be safe?
I've made a lot of friends I didn't have before, I'll tell you that. I actually happen to be right now at this point in time the chair of the Peach Belt Athletic Training Committee. So within the Peach Belt, we all communicate really well. We have an app that's called Slack that we have. Basically, it's a big group chat with all the head athletic trainers, and a couple of the associate schools are in there as well. And so we're able to communicate either broadly with each other or individually. Pretty much every day. I mean, I was actually just talking to them a few minutes ago, and so from the Peach Belt, it's actually pretty easy. I've been around this is my 8th year in the Peach Belt, so that's been simple. It just ends up being a couple of phone calls and just people having to be willing to communicate and let people let you know in advance. Hey, I got a call last week. Hey, just to let you know, we did have a positive. We did our contact tracing. We're not shut down. Just wanted to let you know so that way if something else comes from it, you guys are already kind of ahead of the curve. So that's been easy, and then within the region, so within Conference Carolinas and SAC, we've all really kind of come together. And if we haven't started some kind of group chat, then it's been basically the chair of their committees calling me to find out what's going on with the Peach Belt, or me calling them to find out what's going on with them. And then we have, for example, we have a game with Belmont Abbey tomorrow, and I mean they've been very open since last week. Hey, here's the level of testing we're going to be doing. Do you have any issues with this? Do we need to add a test? Do we need to not test this time? If they've had any contact tracing issues, it's just really been athletic trainers just having to kick it into overdrive as far as over communicating and just working together.
And you touched on your role and on more of a higher up position, but day to day, you're the guy doing these tests. You're the guy running it through the machines, and I know you have some help as well. But how did you get trained and acclimated to get all this done?
That goes all the way back to the summer as well. Just kind of seeing that where this stuff was going. So for us to be able to run these tests. So the difference between the tests, the PCR test is what you always hear. That's a lab-based test that has to get sent off to somebody you see like LabCorp or something like that. It's actually done in a lab. The one we do with the antigen test is it's done under what they call a CLIA waiver. So we had to basically get our athletic training room certified as a type of laboratory to be able to even house this machine.
Wow.
And then we had to have trainings with the company itself. And then in talking with the nurses in our student health department to learn how to do the actual swabs. And then I actually had to call our North Carolina licensing board for, athletic training has a licensing board in North Carolina as well, to make sure that this was even something that was in our scope of practice. And then from there, we had to write it into our licensure, get our team docs to sign off on it to say, okay. And then I'm very fortunate once we got the machine here, and we kind of figured out the nuts and bolts of it. Alyssa Price, the assistant athletic trainer here, honestly came up with, John, you've seen the system that we have set up in the back and,
yep.
and the way we're able to do it. Luckily, that was kind of her brainchild. She's a lot more of the organizational one than I am, so she was able to come up with this really, really elaborate system where we can pretty much test 25 people really at a time, but we can get through 25 people in about 30 or 35-ish minutes, and then we can keep it rolling from there. So if I didn't have her here to be able to set up that, it's not something that came with the company or with the machinery, then that's just something that she just sat down and figured out, okay, how can we create a system of checks and balances where if we're doing mass testing, we're not messing anything up, we're not cross-contaminating or anything like that. So it's been a long process to get here, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and as someone who now is a part of this testing, I get tested 3 times a week with the basketball teams. I can say firsthand, it's a quick and well, mostly painless, I guess, process that you and Alyssa have set up back there. So
mostly painless, mostly. Don't ask these athletes that, man. I am nobody's friend in this building anymore after having to stick that swab up everybody's nose.
Hey, you're just doing your job, my friend. Just doing your job.
I'm just trying to keep us going,
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, a very important role of college athletics, especially playing in a conference like the Peach Belt Conference, is travel. We have Belmont Abbey this Saturday for men's basketball. That's an in-state opponent, but we're going down to Flagler or somewhere in Georgia. We have to stay overnight. So how does travel factor into all this?
Oh, there's a lot. Some of that stuff is actually still being there. As I said, NCAA changes things pretty often. I think we're pretty much at the end stages for what that's going to look like. But, having to travel, so we'll still have to get tested 3 times a week leading up to that. The caveat there is that the last test has to be done within 24 hours of your departure. You still have to do some kind of screening before you get on the bus. On the bus, everybody has to be, there's some teams who have talked about, typically a men's and women's basketball team who are going for a doubleheader typically travel together. There's been talks about trying to travel in separate buses so that way you're not right on top of each other. Because at that point, if somebody on a bus, actually Dr. Hainline actually alluded to this as far as travel, where there was an instance where a cross country team was on a 15-passenger van. One kid tested positive 2 days afterwards, and subsequently all 15 people ended up with COVID. Versus you look at what happens on like an airline, they haven't actually been able to find any kind of contamination, any infection from an airline because the ventilation systems are so good. So the more you can spread people out and the more you can not be on top of each other, the better chance you have of not spreading this thing. So there's been talks of doing stuff like that where that way everybody's on top of each other. John, on some of the trips we always stop for dinner somewhere. Mm-hmm. That'll change as well. Everything should be kind of dine and go, get your food and get out, so you're not sitting in a restaurant where you're exposed to people who are not in your bubble. As far as testing, if you look think of it about a sport like volleyball, where if they were kind of a higher risk sport, they'd even have to test, on the day of both games after having to travel. If you tell the league you can't distance and mask while traveling, which is pretty much true for anybody in Division II, you need to test on the day of both of those games as well. So then it becomes, okay, how do we travel with the machine? Does that school that you're going to have that capability? So I think from the travel perspective, it definitely overnight it's going to pose some new issues for us for sure, especially logistically. You know, it's going to be something that a speed bump we'll definitely have to try to get over whenever we get there. Like you said, luckily going to Belmont, it's in state. We'll be able to go down and back. But, you know, as we start to get into some of these longer road trips, I think there'll be some a learning curve for sure, where we're going to have to see kind of, you know, see what works, see what doesn't, you know what I mean? We'll definitely probably take a couple of lumps and finding out, okay, well, we did this and, you know, this happened, probably shouldn't do that again, you know, so and we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Joey, I want you to put your public health hat on for a second. COVID cases are reaching record highs, about 200,000 new cases per day. Hospitalizations are up. Really, all the metrics are up. What would your message be to the general public, you know, people who may be listening to this podcast, for them to stay safe and keep their family and friends safe?
Man, I remember I just got deja vu back to a couple of months ago when you asked me this question, when I think I was the first person on the BraveHawk Talk podcast.
You were?
I guess I was second. I think Coach Richards beat me, but, you know, I was on the first episode. But I mean, it's the same thing, man. It's just, you know, at this point, it's been an over politicization of all this stuff, whereas, you know, people that don't believe in it or haven't been affected by it, hasn't touched them. I can tell you, I've seen it here firsthand, and I think athletics and being on a college campus is kind of a microcosm of society as a whole. But a lot of people don't take it seriously and don't really care much until all of a sudden somebody near them is positive or they're positive, and then all of a sudden it becomes this very sharp realization that, oh man, this is real, like this is actually here. So I mean, if people would just have a little bit more empathy for other people who are going through this stuff and have been touched by this, I think that would go the longest way. But I mean, you know, the public health message, while, you know, some people might say it has not really overly changed. You know what I mean? Wear your mask. Okay, don't go to gatherings of a large amount of people, especially people who are not part of any kind of circle that you're in. You know what I mean? Don't share items. I mean, we've found out largely that for the most part, this isn't really something that you're necessarily going to pick up from a surface or anything like that. I think whenever I did your podcast, John, I did the podcast, I'm pretty sure I had gloves on.
You did, black gloves. I remember that.
At that point, we were still not sure about, hey, this could still be contracted from a surface. Largely, that's been pretty much debunked. Now we know that, okay, if you wear a face covering, keep yourself away from people at least 6 feet. Don't put yourself in high-risk situations, which is, you know, going to parties or going to large mass gatherings that some states are still allowing, you know, these quote-unquote super spreader events. If you do stuff like that, you know, that's really all it would take to slow down so much of this stuff. And even I mean, even past that, it's just, you know, again, having empathy for everybody else who's been to it. Maybe you haven't been affected by it necessarily yet, but if you would just do the few mitigating factors, you know, if you would just wear that mask, you don't have to be as dramatic as I am. Coaches will tell you I'm paranoid because of what I do for a living, and I know if I get sick and have to go home that it's going to affect a lot of people here, you know, not only because of contact tracing stuff, but just because of the logistics of the day and how much I do down here. So if I walk into an office, I typically hit my watch, and I'm going to make sure I walk out of that office in under 15 minutes. I'm going to make sure my mask is on. I'm going to make sure I stay across the room. You know, I try to, basically for me, and I try to tell a lot of people this, is every time you walk away from somebody, say to yourself, okay, could I be a close risk? Could I be a high risk close contact with that person right there? And if the answer is yes, then there's probably something you could have done differently. If the answer is no, then you're doing things right. You know, and I don't think it needs to be as dramatic as that, but you know, if people just wear your mask, stay away from people, okay, stay in your own bubble. I mean, we've been dealing with this thing for, you know, I mean, it was 10 months ago, I think, almost to the day. I think in 2 weeks from now, I think it'll be 10 months they sent us home in March, John, and I think, you know, it's my math might be out there, maybe it's 9 months. But the message hasn't changed. Hey, put your mask on and stay out of large gatherings.
Joey, great stuff as always. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you for your hard work, and thanks for keeping us all safe.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to keep trying. I'll see you. I guess we'll see here in the very near future if it's working or not.
Thanks so much for tuning in. A reminder to follow us on all of our social media platforms at UNCP_sports on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You're on our YouTube page right now, so hit that subscribe button. We'll be back next Wednesday. Until then, have a very happy and safe Thanksgiving, and remember to mask up.